Hello, I'm Richard Hooper and this is Total Television, reporting from the World Telecoms Council. I'm pleased to be joined by Ben McCahill, Director of Mobile Strategy and Business Development at Tellabs. Now Ben, welcome. Can you tell me the main problems facing telecom carriers today?
Morning, Richard. I think it's really kind of broken into two areas. First of all is increasing the top line, like how do you grow your revenue? And then, the second part of that is how do you maintain good or in fact improve your margins? So there's really those two areas. I think once you kind of break that down a little bit further, I think one of the areas that the operators are facing a challenge in is how do they increase the data revenues? So, the actual amount of data is exploding in the network, but unfortunately, the revenues aren't taking a commensurate rise. That's the first issue. So how do you provision the networks fast enough to take advantage of those growing data volumes? The second issue then is, for each meg of bandwidth that you actually provision in the network, how do you ensure that that's actually delivering to the bottom line? So in other words, how is that going to increase your EBITDA? And then the third element has to do really with the content that's being carried in those networks. Within that, I think operators are kind of working very, very hard to understand how they can add value to that content delivery. And then secondly, one of the buzzwords that's going around the council here at the moment definitely is in relation to cloud computing. Where does that fit particularly? So I think all of those issues can really be boiled down to how do I kind of maintain or increase my top line, and how can I ensure that every single meg that I deliver is delivered in a profitable way.
Now, there's been some talk about emerging markets, of course. What are the problems facing the emerging markets?
Well, I think the emerging markets, there's kind of 3 or 4 phases within the kind of network delivery. First of all, there's a land grab going on. I mean, networks are still being grown out. Penetration within emerging markets in some countries is still, considerably less than 100%. So the first phase of network development has to do with just really rolling out the network, the provisioning, the operation and the maintenance of those networks. That's a struggle, but I think it's one that the operators are working very well on. I think the second provision then is as penetration hits 100% and above, you start to see the provision of data services. So you start to see 3G licenses being rolled out now in a lot of emerging markets. So you're going to see data offerings coming out there, which is a little bit of a struggle when you've got a very, very low ARPU. But again, operators are very successfully managing to localize the content and localize the delivery such that it becomes very, very compelling for the end users. And then I think, once again, as you tie that into kind of like the content provision, we've heard a lot here about mobile money and the success of that, and I think, it's going to be a lot more successful in emerging markets. So I think those 3 phases of the kind of the network life cycle are all being, to a certain extent, being played out simultaneously in emerging markets, which makes it a kind of an interesting phase to be.
What role is Tellabs playing in this development?
Well, I think in both the mature and also in the emerging markets, there's kind of 3 focus areas. First is in provision of networks. So, we're rolling out networks that are there for hundreds of thousands of connections to base stations. So it's all about profitability and ability to reach the customer. So it's fast, accurate and scalable service delivery. I think that's the number one most important thing. The second area is to do with how do you kind of grow and transform the network from merely delivering data bits to being able to become context and content aware. And then the third area where we're adding a lot of value is as you migrate the network from 2G to 3G through to either LTE or WiMAX technologies, how can you make sure that you reuse the existing infrastructure so that you solve a problem once and that solution will stay with you for 2G, 3G, 4G and beyond?
Difficult question. What do you see as the future developments with emerging markets?
Oh, that is a tough one. I think there's a lot of differing opinions out there. I think the drive to reach 100% of the population beyond is going to continue. I think the struggle towards profitability will become more acute because the competition is now is fierce out there. I think there will be some consolidation. I do believe that localization of content is going to be absolutely key. So I think it's going to be an interesting space for several years to come.
Ben, thank you very much.
Thank you.